Did Biden draw a red line on Taiwan? Proof the U.S. funded gain of function research in China? And a growing real estate crisis. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, especially to look into controversial topics like we're about to in this video, you should be using a VPN like Surfshark to protect your identity. So, China has vowed to conquer Taiwan. They've been sending record numbers of warplanes towards the island nation. And the Chinese Communist Party has repeatedly said their rule over Taiwan is non-negotiable. So if China invades Taiwan, what will the U.S. do about it? The Chinese Communist Party is hoping it will be nothing. And they've been waging a propaganda campaign to convince Taiwan that the U.S. will abandon them. And so Taiwan should just give up now. Chinese state-run media say the botched Afghanistan pullout was proof America cannot support Taiwan. It would be great if President Biden could offer some clear, definitive words of support for Taiwan.
China just tested a hypersonic missile. What will you do to keep up with them militarily, and can you vow to protect Taiwan?
Yes and yes.
Wait, what? Did Biden just say the U.S. will defend Taiwan from Chinese attack?
So are you saying that the United States would come to Taiwan's defense if China attacked?
Yes, we have a commitment to do that.
This is incredible. I mean, that's pretty clear. This is unprecedented. The U.S. has always made its official position on Taiwan ambiguous, but you can't get any clearer than a straightforward yes. Surely this wasn't some kind of off-the-cuff remark that will be immediately contradicted.
Well, there has been no shift. The president was not announcing any change in our policy, nor has he made a decision to change our policy. There is no change in our policy.
Oh, so much for that. Actually, something like that happened earlier in the year, where Biden, in the heat of the moment, also offered words of support for Taiwan that the White House then immediately walked back. This comes as foreign policy experts in the U.S. and the Asia-Pacific held war games to simulate a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Specifically, where Chinese troops invade the Taiwanese-controlled Dongsha Islands. Those are in the South China Sea. Based on China's recent military activity, this type of limited aggression could be a precursor to the seizure of other islands near Taiwan or an outright invasion of the democratically governed island, as Beijing seeks to test and prod Washington's resolve to defend Taiwan. This is the War Game Report, the poison frog strategy. And it shows that if the Chinese military is able to take Dongsha and establish a military base there, there's nothing the U.S. can do to expel Chinese forces short of war. The report says the best strategy is deterrence. U.S., Japanese, and other forces need to prevent the takeover from ever happening. Good thing the U.S. is putting out such a resoundingly clear message on Taiwan. Meanwhile, in response to Biden's comments on Taiwan, China says there's no room to compromise. My favorite Chinese state-run media, the Global Times, said the U.S. would humiliate itself. And they're warning European lawmakers against a planned visit to Taiwan. The Chinese Communist Party hates this kind of high-level official visit because it kind of makes it seem like Taiwan is an independent country instead of just another province of China. Which is why the Chinese regime is also so upset about the Taiwanese delegation that just went to Prague. In addition to the Czech Republic, Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu is also reportedly visiting Slovakia, Belgium, and Italy this week. This week also marks the 50th anniversary of when the People's Republic of China joined the UN, which also means it's the 50th anniversary of when Taiwan left the UN and has been shut out of participation ever since, due to pressure from China. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken earlier this week called for all UN member states to support Taiwan's participation in the UN. As you can imagine, the Chinese Communist Party loved that. But as long as we're talking about sending mixed messages, the party takes the cake. Because despite all these promises of war and aggression, Xi Jinping just told the UN China would always be a builder of world peace and a defender of the international order. Unless, of course, Taiwan joins the UN, which it has absolutely no right to do. Then China's going to start a war. And coming up after the break, what exactly was the US funding at the Wuhan Institute of Virology? Welcome back. Dr. Anthony Fauci, head of the U.S. National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, which is part of the National Institutes of Health, has again and again denied the U.S. was funding gain-of-function research in China. Gain-of-function means making a virus more contagious or more deadly. And yet, according to recently disclosed documents, the National Institutes of Health did in fact fund research in China that created a more potent bat coronavirus. Mice were infected with a modified coronavirus. Those mice became sicker than those infected with the original version. To be clear, the document says this modified coronavirus is genetically very distant from SARS-CoV-2, the one that became our beloved global pandemic. But the experiment was funded by the US government, and it was conducted at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where many believe SARS-CoV-2 may have leaked from. The experiment specifically wanted to see if spike proteins from naturally occurring bat coronaviruses circulating in China were capable of binding to the human ACE2 receptor in a mouse model. And you know, it's funny, the spike proteins from SARS-CoV-2 are really good at binding to those receptors. And hey, here's another funny thing. Just as the NIH had to submit these documents to Congress, they removed this definition of gain-of-function research on their website. But we can still see the original since nothing ever truly dies on the internet, unlike all the people who died from the coronavirus. Now Fauci is doubling down, saying it's molecularly impossible that those modified viruses are the same as the pandemic. Originally, Fauci said the pandemic most likely had a natural origin and that the NIH did not fund gain-of-function research. Now, he's saying there's no way the modified bat coronavirus in this NIH-funded study is the same coronavirus as the pandemic coronavirus. And he still denies it included gain-of-function. And then Fauci used that to criticize people who are concerned about the NIH funding gain-of-function research, as if they're just unfairly trying to blame the NIH for COVID-19. But from what I've seen, people who are worried about gain-of-function research aren't saying these are the same coronaviruses. They're worried the NIH is funding gain-of-function research that, makes viruses more dangerous in general. We tried to reach Fauci for comment on this issue, but he was busy moving goalposts. And coming up after the break, China's real estate crisis is getting worse. Welcome back. China's real estate crisis is getting worse, following the Evergrande crisis we talked about last month. Now, another major real estate developer, Modern Land, has failed to pay its debts. With so many real estate companies threatening default, in other words, not being able to pay the people they owe money to, there's concern that foreign investors will suddenly realize how stupid it was to invest in China. Well, good news for stupid foreign investors. Now the Chinese government is saying they want companies to settle foreign debt to protect those firms' reputations, as well as the overall order of the market. That's not to say the foreign debts have been paid. It's just that the Chinese government is publicly telling companies to repay it, and then making sure that gets reported in Western media. So don't worry, I'm sure it will all go smoothly, and then we can triple down on our China investments. Recently, border talks between India and China broke down. Well, now, China's rubber stamp Congress has passed a new border law, and it basically provides a legal justification for what China was already doing. China was calling the villages it was building on disputed territory part of its poverty alleviation scheme. And the new law is all about how China will support economic and social development, as well as opening up in border areas. Oh yeah, I bet China wants to open up border areas. The law also says China can take any measures to combat and safeguard territorial integrity. And speaking of bogus Chinese laws to justify the CCP's authoritarianism, a second person in Hong Kong has been convicted under the national security law. The man's crime? Chanting pro-independence slogans. He faces up to 7 years in prison. The U.S. government has ordered China Telecom to get out of the American market. Yeah, if I'm going to be spied on, I want it to be from an American company, like Amazon's Alexa.
I'm not spying on you, Chris.
What? Where's that coming from? I didn't install Alexa.
I've always been here, Chris.
Anyway, the FCC has given the U.S. division of China Telecom 60 days to get out. And can I just say, a Chinese telecom company named China Telecom? I mean, I know they don't exactly reward creative thinking under communism, but come on. An NBA player, Enes Kanter, continues to troll the CCP and the major corporations that do business in China. Last week I told you about Kanter tweeting a video supporting a free Tibet, which resulted in Boston Celtics games getting pulled in China. So did Kanter back off? Nope. He doubled down by tweeting a video about the Uyghur genocide and several pairs of themed sneakers, including a pair showing him holding a severed Winnie the Pooh head basketball. Now there's a guy who goes all in. Kanter also tweeted this lovely message to Nike.
But when it comes to China, Nike remains silent. You do not address police brutality in China. You do not speak about discrimination against the LGBTQ community. You do not say a word about the oppression of minorities in China. You are scared to speak up. Who makes your shoes in China? Do you even know?
Well, of course they don't know. They don't even want to know. That's why Nike lobbied so hard to stop a bill that might expose ethnic slave labor in Nike's supply chain. But just to drive the message home, Kanter showed up to a game this week wearing these shoes. I wonder how long until the NBA tries to find an excuse to retire Kanter. And this episode is sponsored by Surfshark. When you go online, you should be using a VPN to protect yourself, especially if you're using China Telecom or your mobile phone, or if you want to research what the US government was really funding in Wuhan. And that's why you should use Surfshark. Surfshark secures your data with top-of-the-line, uncrackable encryption and the most secure VPN protocols. And to further protect your privacy, Surfshark doesn't keep logs of what you do. In fact, it keeps a server network in the British Virgin Islands where local laws allow companies to not keep user data logs. And with one account, you can use Surfshark on your phone, your laptop, and on as many other devices as you want. So try it out with our special deal that includes 83% off a 2-year plan plus 3 extra months for free. Go to surfshark.com/uncensored and use the code uncensored to get their special deal that includes 3 extra months for free. Use the link in the description below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.